I went to MagicCon so that you didn't have to. Let's talk about all the things I learned. Well, what is going on, everyone? Welcome back to Kitchen Table TCG. My name is Louie. I hope you're having yourself a fantastic day. We just got back from MagicCon. I wanted to share just some of the takeaways from me as a business owner, as a Magic fan, as somebody who is a content creator and is engulfed in this community. Some of the things that I walked away with from MagicCon that I wanted to share with you, and I'm sure we will be talking about a lot on the channel in the future, as I feel like this is a pretty good learning experience for me to really get into Magic the Gathering in a much deeper way. So hopefully you can hop along, follow along on the Discord at KitchenTableTCG.com, and we can have a good time. So first off, I already did a video about this, but I wanted to highlight it in this video because this was the biggest shock factor for me, is that Magic is all about the singles. It was absolutely wild. I knew this as a business owner, as somebody who sells cards. I know that the typical Magic player buys singles, but in our retail location in West Virginia at Game Grove, we sell a lot of sealed product. It is a very active part of our economy and our sales at the store, and we sell singles, we take in trades, whatever. But here at MagicCon, I mean, every single vendor, I would guess 95% of what they were doing was singles, not any sealed product, not really focusing on anything like that. It was all about singles, and not just selling singles, but buying singles. I would love to actually talk to vendors to think, how much more money did you spend than you bought at MagicCon? Because I would venture to say most of them spent more money than they sold buying collections and that kind of thing. It was wild to see every single table, 4, 5, 6 people behind the counter buying cards at a time. Absolutely wild. And you have buy lists for it wasn't even like vintage cards. It wasn't even like a reserve list stuff. They had buy lists for the one ring at like $50. I mean, absolutely wild, basically buying it at market price. They had all sorts of different buy lists that were public, and then you could see what the different public buy lists are. You could walk around and do things. It was just a very eye-opening experience to see that the economy of Magic the Gathering does not rely nearly as much on sealed product as I thought it did, and it's 90% at this economy, at least at the fest, was actually just singles. So that was kind of wild for me and kind of interesting. All right, so let's go on to number two. Number two thing that I walked away with is that Wizards of the Coast is still catching up to its growth. The con, one of the biggest complaints that we heard at the con, that I had at the con, that we've seen on Twitter and that kind of thing, is that it was overcrowded. There was not enough table space. All the events were sold out. You guys heard Josh and I couldn't do our double-headed giant event because it was sold out. Everything was overcrowded. There was never a time when I felt like they had presumed the right number of people were going to be interested in that thing or whatever. And I think that this is a growth curve for Wizards of the Coast, and that they undershot what their demand was. And this is also kind of holds true to this idea because you also have like Wizards of the Coast staff just like walking around in the con, and they are so distracted because everywhere they go, they get stopped by fans and whatever. And it almost feels like Wizards doesn't understand how big Magic the Gathering is. Like when they were planning the con, they're like, yeah, we'll need this space. And they played it safe, and they really needed this bigger safe. Now, I am a huge fan of undershooting your demand, because I think what people don't want is to walk into a huge room and have a ton of open space and feel like the con is empty. Nobody wants that. And so I do think, like, from their perspective, they probably rather undershoot than overshoot. But there were people playing games on the ground. Every single table was full. I mean, it was absolutely crazy how packed this place was. And I think they probably could have gotten away with having a bigger space, I think that would have been much healthier. And so it feels like Wizards is catching up to their growth, and they don't fully understand the size of success Magic the Gathering is. That was just my takeaway from a consumer. And then you have some negative effects of that, right? Like, you're hearing all these, big players in the 75K complaining that, it was way too loud in the event because they've got the stage going on and they're on the microphones and yelling and screaming and exciting. And that's a valid complaint that I think is because they tried to hone it all into one space, and they just undershot how big of a deal the Magic the Gathering community is. You know, even everything from that to like the lines at the merch. I mean, 3 hours to wait in merch just because they only had like 10 people working back there. Like, that's the type of stuff that I feel like they need to grow and understand how big and how many people are going to be there. But yeah, this was the first major con in a long time. This is the biggest one that they've had in a long time. So maybe that will happen next. All right, number three thing that I walked away from at MagicCon. This one is a little bit more personal for you. For me, drafting with friends, not at the store, was so much more fun to me. You know, I've gotten so overwhelmed with running the business and being at the game store, and when I try to run a Friday Night Magic, making sure that it's great for the people who come and who are paying customers and focusing on that I have lost a lot of the excitement and joy of playing Magic the Gathering that I used to have. And being at this weekend, and I brought a box of Ultimate Masters, and I shout out to Min-Max Games, they brought a box of Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, just both two different nights. We just drafted with friends, and it was, you know, for us with the Ultimate Masters, we actually kept all the cards in a cube, a Chicago cube that we all just kind of added cards to, and we'll have a Wizard's Tower cube that's going to be our Chicago Wizard's Tower. And so nobody was caring about value, nobody cared about paying, there was no prize support and worrying about our customers going to be happy. It was just playing Magic with friends, and I had an absolute blast drafting and just enjoying playing the game. And so for me, it was just this reminder that all this isn't just about business, but that Magic is a really fun game to play with friends. And I want to challenge myself over the next year to recreate some of those memories of not just focusing on the store, but creating some nights and some times for me to just draft with friends and just have a good time. Probably not at the shop, but probably more at like my house or whatever. And so that was a really big takeaway for me, that I want to find the joy in playing Magic again. And you may see some of that pop up on the channel that's like, why is Louis doing a gameplay? Because I want to find the joy of playing Magic again. And so, I don't know, that was just a big takeaway for me. Number 4 is that the gathering is the real big part about Magic. This weekend was a really big example of how the economy of Magic the Gathering, the things that you hear me complain about on the channel a lot with Wizards pricing and Amazon dumps and all this stuff, all these things matter to the economy of Magic. But to the gathering side of Magic the Gathering, it just isn't that important. There was a lot of complaints and a lot of conversation about prices and that kind of thing at the con, but nobody was saying, it's too expensive, so I'm gonna quit Magic. Most of the conversation about finances and that kind of stuff was like, it's too expensive, I'm just going to play with what I have. I'm just going to enjoy Magic the Gathering for what it is and what I already own and what I'm already involved in. Without the healthy economy of Magic, the Gathering is still very alive and very active. In Magic's history, I think this comes from Magic's history of 30 years of fans and of community and of people coming together to play games. When you have that depth of 30 years of something, even though things aren't as good as we want them to be now, Magic is still vibrant and active and growing, and the community side, the gathering side of Magic is still super deep and healthy and growing, and there are still super deep roots involved in that. And I think that's a really big component that a lot of people because it's hard to talk about. It's awkward to talk about. It's hard to put a value on it. It's hard to put a timer on it or calculate it. It's just a difficult thing. But when you're in the room with 15,000, 20,000 Magic the Gathering fans, you see how deep and diverse the community is in terms of ages and whatever. It's just a really deep community, and that's really important. So, and then the last thing, this is probably the biggest takeaway. I saved the big one for the last, for those of you who suffer through me telling you that I like playing Magic again. And this is the biggest takeaway for me, is that Wizards took this weekend and the attention that was on this weekend to push this idea and narrative that Magic the Gathering has something for you. And there was, last year with the whole, Magic 30 thing and the whole, the mess ups and all that stuff, we as a community took this note that like, Magic isn't for me. Blake said in the thing, well, maybe that product's just not for you, right? Like we all leaned into that pretty hard. And I think they took this weekend and they pushed out all of these products. You had Bloomburrow, like I was surprised we even saw anything for Bloomburrow, Duskmorn or whatever the last set of the year, Modern Horizons 3, Thunder Junction, Fallout, all these things, like a huge bomb of just information dropped upon everybody. And I feel like the narrative of that and what happened to the community and the conversations was like, holy moly, no matter who you are, there was something that excited you about Magic the Gathering in 2024 as a result of all the spoilers at once. I'm not sure I like the idea of spoiling everything from a business perspective, because there will be people who just say, well, I'm gonna sit out on Thunder Junction because I'm really excited about Bloomburrow or whatever. But from a excitement standpoint and from an in the room and conversations with people, I have found that everybody who I went with and everybody who I talked to was really, really excited about something for Magic the Gathering in 2024. Now, whether that was the same thing for every person didn't matter, because people were talking about how excited they were for the game this year. And I think that that was their idea. That was their hope, was that people walked away from this weekend, from seeing things on Twitter, from seeing the previews and the spoilers, with an excitement for the game in 2024. And I think that was largely successful as a result of this just huge information dump of cards and spoiler images and really cool lands and really crazy Eldrazi's and really cool stuff. So let me know what you think about all this stuff in the comments, or if you went to MagicCon, what was your takeaway? Or if you were following on the Instagrams and the Twitters and whatever, what are the things that you were excited about? And I hope that you all had a great time, and I hope that this year, 2024, you can find some time to enjoy the gathering side of Magic the Gathering, whether that be in your own local community, at your house in your commander pods, or going to one of these cons. I know there's a bunch of other ones going on. So hopefully you have yourself a fantastic day. Remember to be kind to the people around you. We'll see you again next video.